One Punch Man Chapter 180 is out right now, but before we jump straight into that, Yusuke Murata does a retcon on Chapter 177, which isn't truly a big deal and somehow doesn't change on how the story goes so far. But it is nice to know that they added details here and there, so what he does is he added things between these pages. So we can see right here, Fubuki group members are actually trying to put a fight against Apollo, with Mountain Ape pulling off his signature move called Wild Switch, which what he does is just basically throw a medium-sized rock at the opponent, and that move is clearly not enough to do anything to Apollo, so he counters it and just throws the rock at them. And Fubuki, who can't just stay and watch, tries to attack Apollo as well, but Apollo is still able to detain her easily because the poison thing that they smuggled inside Fubuki's body is still there. So that's basically it for the retcon. The rest just stay the same and does not change anything from that point on. But as to why they needed to do this, I think it's just so it shows that Fubuki group members also have loyalty and actually are willing to fight for Fubuki and vice versa. The story will surely bring this up again at the end of the fight between Tatsumaki versus Saitama, like whether or not Fubuki will keep them as the members of Fubuki group. So let's see. And moving on to the actual new chapter 180, the fight still continues and Saitama keeps saying that he wants to go home. And then Tatsumaki rips his jacket with some sort of ki blast and then sends him flying multiple times with a consecutive blast. And back to the containment room, Fubuki thinks back to what Tatsumaki said a few chapters back about forcefully cutting the ties between Fubuki and her group, which really shows her insecurity towards her big sister. And then the members say sorry for not being able to protect her, and Fubuki replies it by saying the group is disbanded, telling them that they are too weak and useless, and flies up to probably where Saitama and Tatsumaki are at, and also tells them not to follow. Now, at first glance, the sequence looks contradictory with what I said about Fubuki and her group fighting for each other, but Fubuki has her own intention behind this. She wants to protect her group and not get their asses kicked by Tatsumaki by playing a villain role. And with this, I believe that it makes more sense that we needed to see the retcon on chapter 177, which really shows the bond between Fubuki and her group, and not to mention that they will surely follow Fubuki and get back to her eventually. So moving on with this chapter, as Saitama and Tatsumaki are still flying around, something happens in End City. There are a bunch of guys gang up on a single person. They say they got a woman as hostage, and this guy's trying to save her. And turns out he's an A-rank hero named Feather. But in fact, the woman set him up so he came to that place. And she says that she's laughing on how stupid he was to be fooled by a bad acting as she's turning around. But somehow he knows that it's not her true self, and she's crying. And then the boss comes and Feather is getting serious. He's about to go all out, knowing that there's no hostage. But Saitama ruins his glory before it happens. And of course, Tatsumaki is there too. And the whole gang are scared, and the boss tries to attack Saitama and says, "Weaklings need to get lost," but Saitama replies it by saying, "Oh, so you then," as he sends him flying. And then Tatsumaki deals with the rest of the gang members, and the woman eventually fangirls over her, and Feather, after his attempt to act like a shonen main character, he's gonna pretend like it never happened. And moving on, in H City, there's a traffic jam caused by a monster, and Metal Bat is the nearest S-class hero available from the scene, so he has to run all the way from his house to get there, leaving his precious cat and his sister, and it makes him mad. And as he's about to finish his words to that monster, Saitama and Tatsumaki pierce through the monster's head and kill it by accident. Not only that, they burst through buildings, and Tatsumaki becomes more frustrated with Saitama, and Saitama yells at her to stop destroying things, and Metal Bat, who fails to release his anger, just stares at what happened between Saitama and Tatsumaki as he tries to calm himself down, and he just decides to go home. So with this chapter all wrapped up, I think this one is more focused on the comedy side, so there isn't really that much to talk about. And of course, I loved it as a reader, but not so much as a reviewer, to be honest. So yeah, I think that's it for today, and as always, I'll see you guys later. Peace.